In Episode 1, we traced how Iran and Israel moved from quiet cooperation to strategic hostility after 1979. But once that hostility began, the world expected a direct war that never fully arrived. Instead, something more complex took shape, a conflict that spreads across borders without announcing itself. A conflict fought through alliances, armed groups, covert operations, and selective strikes. A conflict designed to pressure an enemy while avoiding the high cost of open war. This is the shadow war. And to understand it, we need to start with the logic that drives it. A direct war between Iran and Israel would be unpredictable and costly for both. It would risk widening into a regional conflict, causing severe economic damage to energy markets and shipping routes, and creating intense domestic political pressure. Military escalation could quickly spiral out of control. So both sides often choose a model that gives them strategic leverage without crossing the point of no return. That model is indirect conflict. It's pressure through partners, deterrence through distance, competition without a formal war. This is where proxy warfare enters the story. So what exactly is a proxy war? It's a conflict where a state advances its goals by supporting non-state actors or partner forces rather than fighting directly. This support can include funding, training, weapons, intelligence, and even political backing. For the sponsor state, this is a way to apply force without leaving direct fingerprints. Keep escalation limited and create multiple pressure points against an adversary. But there's a serious downside. Proxy wars spread conflict into fragile societies. They blur responsibility, and they increase the number of sparks that could ignite a much wider war. For Iran and Israel, this became a long-term strategic system. After 1979, Iran's leadership began to view its security through a wider lens. It wasn't just about defending Iran's borders, but about shaping the regional environment to push threats outward. Over time, Iran invested heavily in regional alliances with armed groups and partner forces. From Iran's perspective, this creates deterrence by making any attack on it costly and multi-front. It provides strategic depth by extending its influence beyond its borders, and it gives them leverage in regional politics. From Israel's perspective, this looks like encirclement, a growing ring of hostile forces near its borders, designed to limit its strategic freedom. This is why the proxy dimension isn't a side detail. It is the central operating system of the shadow war, and one group in particular became a cornerstone of that system. Hezbollah emerged in Lebanon during the early 1980s, in the middle of a civil war and foreign intervention. Over the decades, it evolved into something incredibly complex, a political party inside Lebanon, a social welfare network, and a powerful military force. For Iran, Hezbollah became strategically valuable because it created a powerful deterrent right on Israel's northern border. The logic is simple. If Israel strikes Iran directly, it may face retaliation not just from Iran, but also from allies positioned much closer. That creates a multi-layered risk. For Israel, Hezbollah is viewed as a major threat. It can sustain pressure from the north. Its capabilities have become more advanced, and it's deeply embedded in Lebanon's complicated political landscape. This creates an ongoing cycle. Iran supports Hezbollah's strength. Israel watches for its growth and acts to disrupt weapons transfers when it feels the risk is too high. But Hezbollah is only one part of the shadow war. Another front operates with different dynamics in Gaza. Gaza is a different arena with its own unique political and humanitarian realities. Hamas, a Palestinian movement, became the main governing and military actor there. Iran's relationship with Hamas has not been as consistent as its relationship with Hezbollah. It has shifted over time. But in the framework of the shadow war, Gaza adds another pressure point on Israel's southern front, dividing its attention and resources. The key takeaway isn't that every group is controlled like a remote-controlled drone. These relationships are often partnerships with shared interests and overlapping goals, but also occasional tension. This complexity makes the shadow war harder to end. Because even if the major states want to pause, events on the ground can still escalate quickly. And then there is the battleground that changed the shadow war more than any other, Syria. Syria became a central stage because of its geography. It sits at a strategic crossroads, close to Israel's border, connected to Lebanon, and linked by corridors that can connect Iran's regional allies. During the Syrian conflict, Iran expanded its involvement, supporting the government and increasing its regional footprint. From Israel's perspective, this raised major concerns. Iran could establish long-term military infrastructure close by, and advanced weapons could move through Syria to other groups. Israel's response became a strategy often called the war between wars. This isn't a full-scale invasion. It's a campaign of targeted strikes, intelligence-driven operations, and disruption of weapons transfers, all designed to prevent long-term entrenchment. The strategy is to manage risk by acting early, before threats mature. Iran's objective in Syria is to maintain its strategic depth and protect its allies and access routes. Israel's objective is to prevent a forward base from forming near its borders and stop the flow of advanced weapons. This is the shadow war in its purest form: calculated action, controlled messaging, and constant pressure. But Syria also shows why this is so unstable. Every strike carries a risk of miscalculation, retaliation, and expansion into a direct conflict. The shadow war isn't just one method, it's a whole toolbox. It includes proxy pressure, intelligence operations, sabotage, targeted strikes, and strategic messaging. Sometimes the goal isn't just to cause damage, but to send a clear message: we can reach you, and we will again. The whole thing is built around a constant balancing act. Apply enough pressure to deter the other side, but avoid pushing so far that the conflict becomes uncontrollable. That balance is incredibly fragile. And proxy warfare doesn't stay contained. It pulls fragile states into larger rivalries, weakens their governance, and keeps conflicts alive long after local populations are exhausted. Countries like Lebanon and Syria aren't just arenas, they are societies with real human consequences. When conflict becomes a network, it becomes much harder to resolve because peace requires multiple actors to stop at once. This is why the Iran-Israel shadow war has lasted so long. It's not a single war. It's an ecosystem of pressure. From Israel's perspective, the shadow war is about prevention, stopping advanced threats from forming nearby. From Iran's perspective, it is about deterrence, creating enough regional leverage so it can't be isolated or attacked without consequences. Both sides see their actions as necessary and believe the other is the destabilizing force. This perception gap keeps the cycles of escalation alive. Even when neither side wants a full war, both continue to prepare for one. The Iran-Israel conflict is not confined to Tehran or Tel Aviv. It spreads through networks, through alliances, and through places where local struggles and global rivalries overlap. This is why the shadow war has shaped the Middle East for decades. It offers strategic control without delivering lasting peace. It keeps conflict below the threshold of all-out war. But it also multiplies the number of ways that war can begin. And that brings us to the next episode. Because if proxy warfare defines the battlefield, one issue defines the stakes. In episode 3, we'll explore the question that turned this regional rivalry into a global alarm: Iran's nuclear program. We'll look at the IAEA, the JCPOA, and why Israel sees nuclear capability as the most dangerous shift of all. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss it.